You are listening to WHCM 88.3 FM, Palatine, Illinois, a broadcast service of Harper College and its Board of Trustees. It is time for Streaming Verse here with Chris and Nina, and we have a guest with us this evening, Streve Sarowtiz, but I'm going to let him introduce himself here in just a minute. First, we're going to make sure we're set up correctly and that Steve knows what's happening right now. So we're going to scroll down here on the oat milk from DJ Double Dip. And if you want to see what's happening here, you want to go to YouTube Live, look for the Harper Radio channel, where you can see what's going on right now on the show tonight. All right, Steve, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, and I can hear you, which is also good. So just so you know, for the first time ever, we've got this set up so that you are your own camera on YouTube Live now. Before we had it rigged up a little bit. Lots of changes here in the studio over the past couple months. So Nina and I are excited to have you on the show, but I want to make sure you see her as well. So you're only going to see me all night. So I'm sorry. Everyone else is going to see everybody, but you just get me. Here's Nina. Nina is over on mic. We take turns on who is at the board, and she was on last week for our guest. So I got you tonight. All right. It is a Streaming Verse here on WHCM with Nina and Chris and our guest, Streve Sarowtiz. Steve, how would you like us to address you tonight?
Steve is fine.
Okay. We're good with that.
I've been called worse than that.
Yeah.
So I want to, we both want to thank you for being on the show tonight, and we're really looking forward to, I have to say, normally when we are researching for a guest, it's 2 or 3 things that you look into, and you were like going down a rabbit hole of information and involvement and things you've done and things you've touched, and it's just amazing. So hopefully you're prepared to share a lot so we don't have to ask a lot of questions. Because I think once we get started, there might be a ton. So so why don't you introduce yourself before we start talking about what we have watched over the past week?
So I am Streve Sarowtiz. I am an entrepreneur. I am a filmmaker, and I am a philanthropist.
What's the difference between an entrepreneur and a philanthropist?
An entrepreneur makes money. A philanthropist gives it away.
Okay.
So I've made money. Entrepreneur starts a business, a successful entrepreneur,
right,
or unsuccessful, but I'm a successful entrepreneur, at least financially. And I am founder of a business called Paylocity, which went public in 2014. And I've founded some other companies as well. And then philanthropy is, hopefully, if you do well as an entrepreneur, what you get into next.
That sounds
awesome.
Good. All right, so before we get into more about what, your involvement and the Wayfarer, Productions and the theater, we want to know what you've been watching that we might be interested in or something you'd like to share.
Well, I just watched Big George Foreman. I've been watching movies at my movie theater.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's nice.
I watched a really cool documentary. We had the filmmakers come in last night called Stranger the Gate, about a Marine, a U.S. Marine, who went to Iraq, and he was very distraught about what happened there. And he came back very angry with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and he wanted to actually kill Muslims, so he was going to blow up a mosque. So he went to a Muslim center in Muncie, Indiana, where he lived, and he was prepared to blow it up, and he wanted to just meet the people first to make sure he was doing the right thing. And he met them, and they loved him so much. They met him so lovingly and so kindly that he actually became a Muslim.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It's a great, really fascinating documentary, and we had a nice story afterwards. We had a great showing of the movie Till a couple weeks ago with Keith Beauchamp, the writer and producer, 20-year odyssey for him. We had the movie Sweetwater with the star Everett Osborne. He did a wonderful job. Let's see what else I've watched. Air. I loved Air.
Yeah, okay. And it was written by a local, I believe, as well. Lyons Township High School.
I have a funny story. About a little over a year ago, I was having lunch with a friend of mine, a couple of friends of mine in Los Angeles, and my friend was a phenomenal runner in his day, world class, actually probably the best middle distance runner in the world at his peak. He had several world records and a couple gold medals. And he was the first runner that Nike signed. And we had these guys next to us talking about doing a movie about Nike. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be about Phil Knight, or it's going to be about Steve Prefontaine. And no, it's about this marketing guy at Nike. Why are you doing it about this marketing guy at Nike? It made no sense to me. But I said to my friend, his name is Sebastian Coe, I said to him, you should talk to them, tell them about your history with Nike, since they're talking about Nike. So eventually he did, and we had this conversation, and I forgot all about it. And then a little over a year later, I saw Air was coming out, looked like a good movie, got it in a movie theater, saw it, loved it, told everyone about it. And then I went back and talked to Seb a couple of weeks ago. He said, remember that conversation we had with those guys? I'm like, I had forgotten all about the conversation with the Nike.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Nina, what have you been watching?
Okay. Not much this week because here at Harper, finals are, kind of like happening now. But I did watch the 3rd episode of Love and Death, which is streaming on HBO Max with Elizabeth Olsen, who I just adore, and Kristen Ritter, the 2 of my favorite actors ever, and they're in a thing together. It makes me so happy, even if the content is not as happy. It's terrifying. But I also watched for the first time I Am Legend, and I was kind of scarred for life because in my literature and film adaptation course, we read the book and then we watched the movie and, talked about the differences and all aspects of adaptation, which also applies to our show somewhat today.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about that and, diverse casting calls and everything. And honestly, the only thing that really stuck with me was the dog. And I'm so sad.
Oh, don't. Oh.
There were, okay, and I say this like guys, like they play football, like they talk about playing football in high school or whatever. They were like crying in the back row of the class, and I'm like, don't cry.
Yeah, I think we already talked about Old Yeller. Don't see that ever.
I have seen Old Yeller, and it was terrible. I can't. But
yeah, I am. Why did you watch I Am Legend?
Because we had to in class.
Oh, that's right.
That's
right. You read the book.
Yeah, I already Googled, like, does the dog die? But it happened in the book, but I didn't think it would happen the same. Like, I didn't think it would be worse in the movie, but it was worse in the movie because it's so Hollywood, like, they just Hollywoodized? I can't think of the word right now. They just, like, blew it out of proportions, like random explosions everywhere for no reason.
People like explosions, I guess.
Yeah. What have you been watching, Chris?
Well, because of our guest tonight, I watched Clouds.
Oh.
Which I needed a whole box of tissues. There should be a warning on that one. And to make it even more dramatic for me, my son is the same age.
Oh my gosh.
So my son graduated high school in 2013, the same age as Zach. So as I'm watching it, I'm going, he's the same age. This could be my son. My son's now 28 years old. Zach would be 28 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, they would have been the same class. Nick's a few months older, but the same class. But it was so good. It's on Disney Plus, if anyone's interested in watching it. And I guess, hold on, what are we looking at? I guess I'm going to ask you. Yes, Steve.
You should watch along with that, if you haven't already, My Last Days with Zach, with Justin and Zach, the real life Zach. Did you watch that?
I did not watch it.
Yes.
You did watch it?
Yes.
I didn't because I was focusing on Clouds, and but I did read about it, and I knew that. So you watched the original one, the My Last Days, the documentary?
Yes. I remember just a lot of crying on my behalf there. But the Clouds, the movie, the soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal. One of my favorite artists, Sleeping at Last, I believe has a couple songs. They do a lot of work on Grey's Anatomy for soundtracks, and they have a lot of songs on Clouds, and that it just breaks my heart every time. I love Sleeping at Last.
Yeah,
My Last Days. Oof.
Yeah, it's like I said, but I think it was done great the way that it was done, because it didn't, it wasn't focused on like the heartache part of it, but his goal of making people happy.
Yeah.
Zach's goal of that. So,
Justin actually has a cameo if you want to watch it again.
Who has a cameo?
Justin Baldoni, my partner, the director, has a cameo in Clouds. Do you want me to tell you where it is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just let you look for it.
All right.
I'm not going to cry for 2 more hours right now. It will be a while before I watch it.
I can tell. I'll tell you. He plays a barista.
Oh. Okay. Have to go back and look.
Okay, so when it's my turn to cry, I will keep an eye out.
Yeah, and I did see him at the end, because they show them from the making of the film, and they also show from the documentary too, at the clips at the end. It really was. It was well done. I enjoyed it, but it is very challenging sometimes. We actually did a show about this in the past. We talked about how when you're home, you'll stop it when the emotion gets intense at times. But in a movie, you have to just power on through when you see it in the theaters, which is good and bad. Like, we had a whole discussion about why it's good, why it's bad. And also, that reminds me, Steve, I need to let you know that apparently you are now associated with crying in my life, because, of course, when we met, we went to go see Greetings from Tim Buckley, and that was a sob fest.
Yes, indeed.
So thank you. I'm getting all my emotions out just because of knowing you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we're going to take...
Did you see 5 Feet Apart?
Yes, I have seen 5 Feet
Oh my
Apart. There was
God.
crying there too.
That would be a trifecta then.
Yes.
Why are you doing this to us? That's my question.
It's Justin, not me.
Okay.
Still his fault, not yours.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break. We have to play some PSAs. If you're listening, we are talking to Streve Sarowtiz, and we will be back to have this conversation with him again. And if you're listening on the radio, you want to head over to YouTube Live, look for the Harper Radio channel, and you can watch this conversation as well. Stay tuned, and we will be right back after these messages.
I'm on a Netflix trip here on my phone, but who I am is in these episodes. So don't you tell me that it's just a show.
Do you love watching movies?
Do you use TV shows as an escape?
Well, you're not alone.
Take a break from your binge watching and tune into Streamingverse with Chris and Nina.
Where we talk about all things streaming.
Thursdays at 7 p.m. here on WHCM Harper Radio.
Let's state the obvious. You're ready to get started at Harper College. At Harper, 100% of your classes will be taught by expert faculty, and Harper is accredited by the HLC, same as U of I and Northwestern University. And even better than those two colleges, you could save up to $63,000 on the cost of your bachelor's degree when you start at Harper first. Classes begin soon. Visit harpercollege.edu/start to find out more today.
Hey, this is Ben Badgley, and you are listening to the #1 talk show on college radio, Streamingverse, hosted by Chris and Nina, here on WHCM 88.3 FM,
Palatine, Illinois.
a broadcast station of Harper College and its Board of Trustees.
That was perfect.
And we are back with Nina and Chris in Streamingverse and our guest, Streve Sarowtiz. Whoop. And yes, if you heard that, can you hear us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just making sure. Sorry, this is...
That was beautiful. That was a beautiful spot from Penn.
Yes, yeah, we, that's actually how we met you.
Yes.
Is that we went to the Wayfarer Theater in Highland Park, and we went to watch the movie, Greetings from Tim Buckley. We went with Nina and myself and our producer, Megan. And we were hoping to get him to read a PSA, but at the end of the movie, it was such a serious topic when he was promoting Can We Talk? Right? So he was promoting Can We Talk? And we're like, this isn't the right time or place, so we weren't going to ask anything. And of course, we were all decked out in our WHCM gear. And we just decided to talk. We hadn't had a casual night outing yet, so the three of us were just chatting, and then all of you walk back in.
And then we all just, I was like, for like 20 minutes. Thank God Chris took over there, because I was like, what is going on?
So yeah, it was great, and you know, one of the things you shared with us that night, and I'd like you to talk about more, is, you know, the mission of that theater, because you're not going to go see Marvel movies there, is what we learned that night.
Not unless Marvel starts making movies that aren't violent. So Marvel, it's all against violence. You know, we live in a very violent society. We have mass shootings. We had one here in Highland Park. Just unfortunately had one in Texas. Had them all over the country. It seems like we're having one every day now. And we have way too much gun violence in this country. And I will not encourage that. You know, art imitates life, and life, unfortunately, imitates art. And so our movie theater is really dedicated to peace and unity, to community, to love, kindness, to elevating the human spirit. And so we're going to play movies that are not violent. You're not going to see us play horror films. You're not going to see us play superhero films. But we are going to play films that make you think, that elevate conversations, like readings from Tim Buckley, like Stranger at the Gate that we played last night. So films that really elevate the soul. And I think what Hollywood does too often is they try to make money.
Yeah.
And they go to all the lowest elements. You know, it's about drugs and alcohol and violence. And I'm not saying that, you know, there's not a place in the world at times for a movie that has a little bit of those things, but just the overall emphasis in those things. And Hollywood's going low and we go high. And we love to have filmmakers in too, and that's a big part of it. We don't just want to be an ordinary movie theater. We've had Jane Goodall in. As you mentioned, we had Penn Badgley in. We're going to have Rainn Wilson in later this year. Justin, my partner, Justin Baldoni, will come in. So we're going to have some really great filmmakers coming in and talking about their art. And so I think a movie theater should be also a community gathering place, a community center. And that's, we have children's movies every weekend, children's activities. So the whole idea is to be a place for the community to gather in friendship and communion. And it's very important that we show family-friendly movies so families can come. And it's very important that we show movies that, again, elevate the conversation.
No, it's definitely a great place. I really like the space on it as well. It's not that big group cluster of people when you first walk in, and I mean, I'm sure this is partially just the way the building is, but you know, the way you just walk up the stairs and it's a small gathering area, you know, versus just being overwhelmed with mega.
I didn't build it, so I just took it over. So I take no credit for that, but it is a nice space. I do like the space.
Yeah, I'm gonna need the dates for the when Rainn and Justin are gonna be there.
So just have to get on our mailing list. Just go to wayfarertheaters.com, Wayfarer, not Wayfair.
Okay.
Wayfarertheaters.com/register, and you can get on our mailing list. Or if you really want to come at least once a month, and you want to help us become a member, and so you can go right to our website, become a member, or just register for our mailing list, and that way you'll know about everything that's happening. Our membership is $25 a month, and we offer unlimited films for that $25 a month, and a discount on concessions.
Nice,
wow.
Especially if you're in the area.
Yeah.
If you're a regular moviegoer, it's a really good deal.
I will be letting my brother know about that. He is currently in film school.
I think it would be great for him.
Yeah. I could tell he was jealous when we went to Penn Badgley, because he immediately started listening to Tim Buckley and Jeff Buckley. And I was like, you're jealous, aren't you? He wouldn't admit it, though.
Well, I think that Penn really did a great job. I mean, it's hard to, these guys were classic singers. They were well-known singers. And for an actor who's not known as a singer to do that, it's pretty incredible.
Oh, my gosh. His performance in that was insane.
It was amazing, especially, and the record store scene, and then when he described the record store scene and why he was able to do it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look for Greetings from Tim Buckley.
Go watch it.
And watch it. Did you have any questions, Nina?
Not from YouTube, but like me. I have some questions.
Yeah, you.
All right. I don't even know where to start. Okay. How did you get into producing in the first place?
So in 2015, I declared as a Baha'i in February of 2015. 3 days later, I emailed my friend Farshid. I am in the payroll business. And Farshid is in the payroll business. We've been friends for 15 years. And he is a lifetime Baha'i. He was born into the faith. His father and his mother were very dedicated Baha'is from Iran. And his father, unfortunately, was killed for being a Baha'i in Iran. And what you do when you become a Baha'i is you sign a declaration paper declaring that you're a Baha'i. It's not a conversion, but a declaration. And I declared in front of a painting of 99 martyrs who have been killed by this current regime in Iran. And right in the middle of it was his father. And I sent him a picture. I said, I'm a Baha'i now, and there's your father right behind me. And I said, I'm just going to retire, and I'm going to teach the Baha'i faith. My company, Paylocity, had gone public. By the grace of God, I was doing very well financially. I didn't need to work. And I said, I'm just going to retire and teach the Baha'i faith. And he said, well, you could do that and reach hundreds of people, but if you made a movie, you could reach millions of people, and I know you can afford to do that. So I, less than an hour later, got an email from a movie producer by the name of Peter Samuelson. Actually, we made a movie together called Foster Boy. But back then, I said to Peter, he actually was emailing me about helping with foster children, which we did. And I said to Peter, I've just been told to make this movie. What do you think? And we ended up talking and becoming friends. And he said, yeah, go make the movie. So I went on this 3-year odyssey to make a movie called The Gate, Dawn of the Baha'i Faith. And it's about the Bab, who's the herald prophet of the Baha'i Faith. And it's been seen all over the world. It's been seen in Farsi and English. Millions of people have seen it. And along the way, I met some really cool people like Rainn Wilson, who was one of the experts. And I met Justin Baldoni, who had this little company called Wayfarer Entertainment. And Justin and I became friends. And he said, well, I said, Justin, I really appreciate your help on this movie. He was very gracious, as was Rainn. And I said, if you ever need any help on business, I can't really help you with movies, but I can help you on business. So he came to me and he said, well, I don't want you to invest in my company. I'm not looking for any money from you, but could you just advise me? I'm looking for $1 million investment. And I looked at what he was asking for, and I had seen Justin's work, and I said, Justin, I've got some good news and some bad news. I'm not going to help you with advice, but instead I want to become your business partner. And then Justin gave me the third degree and asked me a ton of questions. And I guess I passed because I became his to this day, very, very happy business partner. Justin's an amazing human being, very talented young director and actor, starring in It Ends With Us now and directing it with Blake Lively. And we became partners, and we've been making movies ever since. We made Clouds, as you mentioned. We made a movie with Rainn Wilson recently, which is in post-production, called Code 3. This is actually my 4th movie with Rainn Wilson. We've got 3 in post-production now. And then one of them is also stars Robert De Niro, which is called Inappropriate Behavior. We have a movie I can't talk too much about with Will Ferrell, but I can say this because it was publicly stated that he was seen filming a documentary with his friend Harper. I just thought that was an interesting thing.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And I might know something about that, or I might not. So,
Oh.
That's funny. Sounds like you have a lot going on, and that's kind of like fascinating that you got into this because of your faith, which led you to film production.
yes.
So what is the role, just your role as a producer, what's your role in the film?
Well, I'm an executive producer, which means, okay, it's really tough. I'm going to actually show you what I do with my hand here. Okay, there we go. That's what I do. And I do that quite a bit. So I pay for things. I don't, sometimes an executive producer can get a little bit more involved. At times, if I'm passionate, I'll get a little bit more involved. But for the most part, it's people like Justin and Rain that are making the movies. Mm-hmm. Justin is a director and actor, and the writers, they're making the movies. A producer, a line producer, will actually be involved with getting the trains to run on time. Okay. The director is really the artistic heart of the movie, and of course the actors act and the writers write. And the executive producer pays for all of it. That's it. That's what I do.
So, and I'm not sure who this was, but back in the day, a long time ago in film, they used to have the dailies, and then the studio would come in. Wouldn't that be the producers, or is there a difference between the studio and the executive producer?
There can be, but typically that would be the studio would intersect pretty well with executive producers. So the studio might look at it, but again, it could be the director looking at the dailies. The director is really the star, the person who's really artistically taking the direction of the movie. You need the right director. If you don't have the right director, this is why I think It Ends With Us is going to be such a good movie, because they have a phenomenal director. Namely Justin.
Yeah. I am so excited about that. Just based off of, I have a friend, Susanna, who's obsessed with reading in general. And we were talking about the It Ends With Us movie, and the second they announced Blake Lively, we were freaking out. We were so excited. And it comes out so soon.
Yes, the date right now is looking like January 26th. So
all right.
Hold your hat. It's going to be coming quickly. And I know Justin will make a great movie or die trying. I would say that he's going to really, he's really passionate about making movies, and everything he's touched so far has been good. He doesn't make bad things. There are people like that just don't like Ron Howard, like Pixar for many years. They just don't make bad things.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I'm actually, this is going to be a shock to Nina. I've started the audiobook. So I was streaming It Ends With Us. I'm 4 hours in.
Oh my gosh.
So I will be ready for the film.
Chris, you can join our book club.
That's great.
Yeah. So but because I already knew about this, because you had mentioned this, that Ends With Us, we talked about at the theater that night. I'm now, of course, picturing those two in these roles. Mm-hmm. So Riles, okay. Lily, okay.
Justin is perfect for Ryle because he's such a nice guy, and so he's handsome, but he's known in Hollywood as a nice guy. You wouldn't think, and if you know Justin, you would never think about him laying a hand on his wife. It would be like he'd be the last person on earth who I think would be an abuser, which is actually really good, because Ryle, you have to want to be able to be fooled by Ryle. So the fact that Justin as a nice guy persona is good. He's big and strong, so that helps too. And I think he's really perfect to play this character, because in the end, he can talk about how men don't want to be this character. And he's written a book called Man Enough, about how men want to be more sensitive and really cherish and respect women. There's a whole chapter on that, and really look at women as full human beings. And so he's the perfect guy to play this abuser, to say, okay, maybe who is this abuser and how can we help this abuser? And that's what Justin would want to do, is help this man to overcome his trauma.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was insightful, and I was wondering who the abuser was, and now I know I thought it was him, but I wasn't sure yet.
Sorry.
No, it's fine, because one, the book's been out forever. Two, already, like, I'm in chapter 5 or 6, and I can tell. Mm-hmm. In my mind, because I'm walking, I've been walking a lot of extra miles lately and listening to this. And as I'm walking, I'm like, what are you doing? I can already tell. Mm-hmm. I know it sounds weird, but I've just been around enough abusive people that it's like, he's controlling.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of, there's a lot of people who are talking all the time about how women need to do this or do that, to prevent abuse. But really, and this is what Justin has said, and I believe as well, is that ultimately we need to educate men. And so we need to take men like Ryle and re-educate them, and re-educate young boys Justin has a book out called Boys Will Be Human, which I highly recommend for anybody with young boys. And it's really about re-educating young men so they don't grow up to be like Ryan. So they don't learn how to hit.
Right, yeah. And
ultimately that hitting is a sign of weakness, not strength.
Right. And I've been in an abusive relationship, so when it comes to me screaming at her, run, it's girl to girl in my head. It's like, I've seen it, run. So anyway, on that note.
That's kind of the idea with putting this movie out there. And then that goes into what we do as a company. We lift up people. And so we want to show the nobility of people. We want to show, in this case, the nobility of women. Justin and I are both really strong advocates for women's rights. The Baha'i faith, one of our major tenets is the full equality of women and men. And so this movie is really a good vehicle because it's such a popular book for us to put forth ideas that we're already talking about.
Right.
Which is that we should really do our best in society to really eliminate men hurting women like this.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a great message, and it's one that I worked into my son. And actually got it, we're late for a PSA, but I'm going to share this real quick. One of the nicest things my son ever told me, and it's not exactly about what you're talking about with the abuse and everything, but when it came to like the locker room talk and boys like talking more up their experiences than not, he actually told me just a few years ago that he never felt the need to participate in that because of the way I raised him. Like his self-esteem was in himself, not outside of himself, in terms of, and then also how we thought about women because he was raised by a single mom. So I'm all about respect, baby.
Yeah.
But again, I think it also stems from the abuser at times. It's a lack of self-esteem, which can develop, and then they want to control what they think they, to make their lives better or whatever. But I'm mumbling.
like I said, the abuse is a sign of weakness. A strong man would never hit a woman.
Right. It's right. The strong man and your belief in yourself and your self-esteem, and you have, worth, your own worth.
And sometimes the abusers are women, but most of the time
Yes.
It's true.
It goes both ways.
Yes, it does. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to be right back with Streaming Verse on WHCM 88.3 FM and our guest, Streve Sarowtiz.
This is Jeff, the driving force behind Dexter's Radio Hour, where every Monday and Friday evening at 6 p.m. you will experience the mind-altering force of genre-bending rock and roll. And whatever this is.
Hi, we're Maddie and Sam from Winnetka Bowling Week. You're listening to WHCM 88.3 FM, Palatine, Illinois.
And we are back. And flip the screen. Okay. We've got 2 new pieces of technology we're working with today. So forgive us if we're being a little pausy here right now. All right, we are back with Streaming Verse here on WHCM, and you can find us on YouTube Live. Look for the Harper Radio channel to see Nina, myself, and our guest, Streve Sarowtiz. Steve, I think Nina had a question for you from her brother, who has messaged us with a intriguing question, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, my brother always has the intriguing questions. So my brother is currently at Columbia in Chicago for filmmaking, and he is also a big Disney nerd. If anyone knows him, he's like a giant Disney nerd. He wants to know what it was like working with a studio like Disney for the film Clouds.
Well, I would tell you I have no idea because we didn't work with this. So we actually worked with Warner Brothers. It's a very interesting story. We started making the film. Actually, Justin was signed up just to direct the film. So we didn't even have an ownership in it. And then Warner Brothers ended up shorting him on the budget, which they always do to directors. And Justin said, well, I have my own money. I have a partner who has money. I'll just give you the shortage. And Warner Brothers said, we were kidding. We'll give you the money. So then he had the full budget. But Justin then went back to Warner Brothers and said, no, I'd really like to actually put money into this film. And I'd like to put in 50% of the money myself and my partner. And we thought they would say no to us, but they actually said yes. And so Warner Brothers and Wayfarer, which literally Wayfarer Studios was, the ink had barely dried on the contract between me and Justin when we did this. It was like weeks later. So we're this brand new studio, and then there's this huge, very well-established studio called Warner Brothers working 50-50 on this project. And it was an amazing project. Justin, the atmosphere on the set was great. Warner Brothers was very happy. And then the movie was done, and I think COVID hit at that point in time. Mm-hmm. And Warner Brothers wanted to just put it on HBO Max. Mm-hmm. And that would have been, we didn't think that was a good fit for the movie. And so we had a clause that if we wanted to do something else, we could actually buy the movie from Warner Brothers, which we did, and resell it. So we actually bought the movie from Warner Brothers, this little studio that could, and we resold it to Disney, and we actually made a little profit. We split that with Warner Brothers. So it was a good deal for both Warner Brothers and for us, mm-hmm. and for Disney. And Disney actually loves the movie, and it was named one of their best movies on Disney streaming. So It worked out very well. I will say that Disney does not buy a lot of movies like this, and mm-hmm. I think they're very impressed with Clouds because they essentially said that we made a Disney movie without any guidance from Disney, which is very unusual.
No, I would. It seemed like a perfect match.
Yeah, the Disney movies have a particular feel to them, and Justin did a really good job producing that without even trying. It's just a movie he wanted to make.
Yeah, no, it was awesome.
And Zach was there too. We had a seat for Zach while we were making the movie.
Oh,
that's so sweet.
It really is. He was an amazing person, and amazing family and friends. Mm-hmm. Just in terms of like the positive support. And I did read about like real, Zach versus movie Zach, and other than like, I know she said the breakup didn't happen, but she understood why I had to be in the movie. Because his mom also wrote a book.
Yes,
about it.
Yes, it was Fly a Little Higher, which is now called Clouds. Okay. So they renamed the book Clouds, but it was Fly a Little Higher.
Yeah.
And they are a very nice family. Really nice family.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about, if you don't mind, the Baha'i Temple.
Mm-hmm. We'll put a picture of it up behind me right now. I've got this at the bottom, but let me change the Baha'i Temple.
You said you're going to change it?
Yep.
Okay, good.
The Baha'i Temple.
The big reveal.
If I can find it, I might not have it.
At this point, I would like... Okay, good.
There it is.
Nice. So, that's like in our backyard. If you're here in the north, in the suburbs of Chicago, we all have access to this work of art, beautiful grounds. Mm-hmm. It's Winnetka, right? Wilmette. I always get them mixed up.
One of the W's.
Yeah, one of the W's, and they're close to each other.
They are.
So yes, this is on the land, Potawatomi land, that was bequeathed to the Wilmettes, and so the wife, her name was Archange Wilmette, and I think it was her land, or I can't remember her husband's land, but this was they were the ones that Wilmette's named after. So this is Native American Potawatomi land.
Wow. Yeah, and it is. Oh, sorry. Go on.
I believe it was holy land for the Native Americans as well.
Wow. It is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. And I've mentioned to Nina before, I swim in Gilson Beach, so I actually get to see it from the lake. So we come around behind it from the water. And it's one of like it's also kind of a destination. Okay, we made it to the temple. Okay. Let's see how much further we can go. So I just had some basic questions in terms of, if anyone wants to visit there, is that possible? What if someone's interested in the Baha'i faith? What can they do to check it out?
Well, I would highly recommend them visiting the temple. Everyone is welcome. The temple, if you're not a Baha'i, you can visit the temple, but there is one thing that you absolutely cannot do that only Baha'is can do, which is to donate money. So, in other words, everyone's welcome, but you can't pay unless you're a Baha'i.
Gotcha.
Which is kind of the opposite of most other places.
Exactly, yeah.
That's, wow.
And so we welcome people of all faiths and no faiths. One of the tenets of the Baha'i faith, the first tenet, is independent investigation of truth. So the Baha'i faith is the most recent faith in the world, the newest. The second newest, I don't know if you ever heard of it, is called Islam, Muslim.
Oh.
And the third newest is called Christianity. Now there's newer sects of Islam and the Christian faith. For example, like the LDS is newer, and Seventh-day Adventists. Those are newer. They're divisions within an existing religion.
Right.
But Baha'i faith is the only new religion in the world. And the crux of the Baha'i faith, it really centers around unity and uniting humanity in peace. So getting rid of, as I mentioned, sexism, but also racism and nationalism and religious prejudice. And so the temple has 9 sides and a dome. It's almost like you can come in through all these 9 different doors. You can come in as a Buddhist or a Hindu or a Jew or a Christian or a Muslim and come in and be together in this temple. So it's the idea of reuniting a divided humanity, which is really the purpose of the Baha'i faith.
Yeah. I mean,
Nina's a little overwhelmed right now.
Oh my gosh.
I actually found your YouTube video when you talk about being Jewish and the Baha'i faith, and you actually go into a lot of this, if anyone's interested in finding out more, I would direct them there.
How a nice Jewish boy became a Baha'i.
Right, yeah. It was very informative, and I found it very interesting, especially because of the one of the things I know from friends of mine who are Jewish, with the Jewish faith in general, they're accepting of other faiths, where within Christianity there's like, no, don't be a Lutheran, be a Catholic. It's like, you're all Christians, why can't we all get along? So that to me is one of the most fascinating things and enduring things about the Baha'i faith.
Well, Christianity is the same way, or was the same way, for 1,000 years. So Christianity was largely united up till the Great Schism in 1054, if I'm not mistaken. It was in the 11th century. And so for over 1,000 years, Christianity was one, just like the Baha'i faith is one. And the first big schism happened with the Great Schism. That was between the Catholics and the Orthodox. And then you go about another 500 years, and the next big schism is with the Protestant Reformation, with Martin Luther. So if you can think of Christianity growing from a seed that Jesus Christ planted, and then growing up and up and up, it's a tree, and it grows together, and it's a beautiful tree. And we during the golden age of Christianity, which was the first several centuries, we ate the fruits of that tree. And then the tree got older and older and older, and it eventually went into the Dark Ages. And as the tree gets older, it splinters. And that's what happens to it happened to Judaism, happens to Christianity. They're united at first, and then as the religion gets older, as it loses its potency, it splinters into many different sections. And so this idea, now that Christianity is split into tens of thousands of different sects or denominations, is because the tree is older. But the tree is still beautiful. From a Baha'i perspective, anyone who's a good Christian is a wonderful person. If you're really following the tenets of Jesus Christ, that's wonderful. To us, it's all one faith. It's just an earlier version of the Baha'i faith. The same thing with Islam, the same thing with Judaism. From a Baha'i perspective, there's no reason to criticize someone for following another religion. We would criticize them for not following the religion. In other words, for saying you're Christian and not being a Christian. But anyone who's truly a Christian, I would have only the utmost respect for it and love.
I just find that, I don't know, heartwarming.
No, yeah.
It's the best way. Just because there's so much things dissecting, it's nice to see unity.
Yeah.
If you think about it, our reality has to be one. We have, according to every holy book, one God. And science says there's one reality. There's not multiple realities. We all live on the same earth. We breathe the same air. The coincidences of climate we know are just coincidence. We know there's no such thing actually scientifically as race. The idea that God would prefer one country over another or people from one country over another is rather silly.
Right.
Now, he may ordain that these certain people might be in power in this particular land at this particular time. But there's no doubt in my mind that God does not prefer one country over another.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that. I think. Yeah. All right. Well, this is really heady. Do we have a lighthearted question or something to talk about before we?
I actually do have another question. Because when we first met, I mentioned that I was going to be going to school to, can I say two one more time?
Yeah, say it again.
Say it one more time. To pursue screenwriting, and you gave me some really good advice. So I'm just going to ask so that everyone can hear it. Do you have any advice for people wanting to go into the film industry?
I would say, first of all, follow your, and then never give up your don't betray your morals. So, basically write things that you're comfortable. Don't just write for the money, but write good things. Mm-hmm. And always write in anything you do, always strive for excellency, and don't give up. Hollywood can be tough, right? The arts can be tough, making a living in the arts can be tough. Mm-hmm. But have faith and be steadfast in what you do. And then the last thing is, I believe, and as I said this before with my theater, that we should use art to uplift humanity. So try to take things, whatever they may be, that will uplift humanity, not bring it down. I think Hollywood, unfortunately, goes so often for casual sex and drugs and alcohol and violence and the things. Basically, it's hitting our lower animal nature. And I really like films that go after a higher nature. They might show challenges and might show violence or sex, but it's not going to glorify it. And I think that's really important, that art should be used to uplift us.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
No, it's a great message. No, because it's too easy to go for the easy buck, per se, and write the garbage.
I don't know if that's what I said. Is that what I said last time, by the way?
Yeah, yeah, you were just like, write good movies. And I was like, what does that mean? And then you went into that.
Excellent question, Nina. Excellent question.
Thanks.
All right, before we start the sign off and I let you say any last minute things you want to add to the show, I did want to send out an invitation. So you did do this via Zoom, but we're not that far away. So if you ever want to come in studio and check out the new digs here, we're also going to be getting a digital cinema here in 2024 at Harper College. So you could come check that out, maybe show a film. I got connections you could talk to and get you set up in there.
I could show, I've always wanted to show the gate at a college, like as part of a class. If you could do that. I really have had trouble getting college students to see it because it's about religion, and religion is the R word. People don't want to see that. But I'd be happy to come and show one of my movies there.
Great.
Yeah. I mean,
the gate would be my choice, but there's other ones as well.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, we can get you hooked up there. I know some people connected to that.
Yeah, and it's going to be so nice to have a new cinema room.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Right now it's more like it's an classroom auditorium. That's all we have right now. So it'll be nice. And then again, we also have right now our studio. Before we were in little rooms. Now we're all in one space here, and we've got this, Zoom, and we've got YouTube Live. We have so much going on. Yeah. But again, the invitation for you or anyone, if you had fun, maybe your friends will have fun that you want to send over to the show.
Yeah.
We're more than open for that.
It might be harder to get Rainn Wilson over, but he's actually very accommodating. So,
maybe he likes college radio. You never know as a college radio connection. Fingers crossed.
The problem is everyone wants Rainn. He's on. He's everywhere. Have you seen him?
He is everywhere.
Everything.
Yeah.
It started with, he had a viral video a couple weeks ago where he was on an airplane and someone was watching The Office the whole flight and not realizing Rainn was sitting next to them. And then he's been doing his book tour for his book Soul Boom, and he's been on every major talk show.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, and we understand that. But one, I couldn't let you go without at least offering the invitation and doing the ask. And two, of course, Rainn Wilson would be amazing. And speaking of that, I'm sorry.
Amazing, but not because he's famous, because he's an amazing human being.
Yes,
That's what I hear.
So did you ever watch The Office? Sorry.
No. I've never watched much of The Office.
Okay.
I did watch Jane the Virgin because when I became partners, I had never watched it.
Okay.
I've watched a couple episodes of The Office, but I can tell you I think Pam is cute. I think she's attractive.
Okay. I actually have a reference because one of my favorite shows that I didn't get to talk about tonight is Ted Lasso, and I normally give a why Ted Lasso is awesome little spiel in my what have I watched. I actually have a whole diary for this last show because it was amazing. But one of the things that ties into The Office is there was something going on, and someone had to go talk to the press. So someone walks into the room and said, "The press is ready for you, Ted. It's a big one." And Ted says, "That's what the lady from the American Office said." It's a joke in The Office that Michael Scott will always go, "That's what she said. That's what she said." And instead, how they wrote it is, "That's what the lady from the American Office said." And I just started busting out laughing. It was amazing.
Oh, that's incredible.
So, before we let you go, is there anything you would like to share?
I just got back from the UK and they were talking about that, the American Office.
Okay, yeah.
And they do like the American Office there, by the way.
Yeah.
Where were you in the UK?
I was at a place called Wev'e Castle. I have a little company there called Pay Escape.
Yeah.
Not so little anymore. I think we have about 70 employees. It's a payroll company. So I started a payroll company here. I started a global payroll company, which I sold back to Paylocity a couple of years ago. And then I still have a little payroll company in the UK called Pay Escape.
Yeah. My mother lives in England, so.
I'm a lover of, I'm an Anglophile. I like everything English.
Yeah.
I love that. Starting with English accent.
Yeah.
It's fun when they're from up north and you get to try to figure out what they're saying. It's
difficult.
It's my favorite thing to do to people because I've been going to England for about 20 years now. My mom's, oh my gosh, 30 years. Because my son's 28. Okay, sorry.
Well, my company's not actually in England. It's in Northern Ireland.
Ah!
They talk more like this. It's almost like an Irish accent, but not quite.
I love it. All right, so let's go back.
Anything like this, but it's what it sounds like to me in America.
Anything else you'd like to share with us or share with the audience before we wrap up the show?
Just for kids, this is something I say to kids all the time, and that is, I always ask this question: have you eaten today? And they look at me kind of funny. Yeah. And did you eat yesterday? Yeah. Why are you asking me this? Have you fed your soul today? Did you feed your soul yesterday? So my advice to young people always is to feed your soul every day. And that doesn't necessarily mean going to church or temple. Just do something to feed your soul. And what I mean by that is you can pray, you can meditate, you can walk in nature, service to humanity, but do something every day to feed your soul. And the more you do that, the happier you'll be.
I love that.
That is a perfect way to end our show.
It is.
And on that note, thank you very much for joining. Again,
Yes, thank you.
If you ever want to come back, we'd love to have you back. And you will be, or someone will be seeing me at the Baha'i Temple this summer.
Wonderful. You can also go to Baha'i.org and get information there. But there's a beautiful bookstore, a really very helpful bookstore underneath the Welcome Center, which you can learn a lot more about the Baha'i faith.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Have a wonderful night.
Thanks. You too. Okay. Nina, talk.
All right. Quick reminder, if you are tuned in to Streamingverse, you can follow us on Instagram, Letterboxd, likewise, IMDb, and Twitter at streaming_verse. You can message us there. Again, we are just closing out the show here on YouTube Live, and if you missed it, you can go to the Harper Radio channel on YouTube and stream all of our shows and this one that we did tonight. So make sure you catch up on Streamingverse.
That was excellent. You
Thank
covered
you.
everything. Thanks everyone for watching and listening tonight. I actually have a suggestion for next week's show. This is just me.
Okay. This is new.
I'm going to have finished It Ends With Us by next week.
Okay.
Do we want to come in? And I was thinking in pajamas.
I'm down.
With your friend, if she's around.
Oh my gosh, I'll ask her.
And talk. It Ends With Us.
Book club?
Yes,
okay.
book club.
I'm down.
If she's up for it, ask. I mean, we could do it in a couple weeks, but I also
Yeah.
figured the pajamas would be because we're exhausted, because we've had guests for 2
I
weeks
have
in
a
a
Taylor
row.
Swift onesie just waiting for me to
Yep.
put it on.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I will reach out to Susanna.
Yep. So maybe that's what next week's show is about. Oh, one thing. What am I planning on watching in a month? The Full Monty 2. The Full Monty, which was a movie that came out 25 years ago about some unemployed men in the UK trying to find a way to make some money. There's going to be a Hulu series on it now.
Ooh.
Did you have anything you're looking forward to watching?
Well, I mean, tonight we have... Not tonight. It comes out in the morning on Thursdays, and I always forget it. The next episode of Love and Death, which I'm so excited for.
yeah.
They always leave it at like a little cliffhanger, and I always am like, ah! And I have to like stop myself to get through the week. And I'm also going to continue watching some Black Mirror.
Nice. Did
Yeah.
you see that one yet?
No. Chris, I have watched 2 things this week, and I spewed it all out.
All
at
right,
the
that's
beginning.
fine. All right, I'll allow it. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good dinner. I forgot my line. Line?
First,
What?
no line like you're
Oh,
an
yeah,
actor.
line.
Now I can't find the promo, so why
That's
don't you
okay.
read us a promo here?
I have
I'm
pillowcases.
disappointed in you right now.
I'm
so
so-
disappointed that
sorry.
you don't know this by heart yet.
It's not a promo.
Oh, not a promo. Sorry, the PS station ID.
See, if you had told me that.
Station ID.
Come on, Chris. Okay, real quick, before we do that, I want to shout out to Chris real quick for handling all of the new technology over there, because that's insane. So she's killing it. You are listening to the award-winning WHCM 88.3 FM, Palatine, Illinois, broadcast station of Harper College and its Board of Trustees.